Welcome to our TV audience. Welcome to the SCORE Business Showcase. Once again, we have a fabulous business with us, and the gentleman is James Clark. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Steve.
And I know your business has to do with money. You know, I started getting
Absolutely.
dollar signs in my eyes. But what is the name of your company?
The company is Money Acquisition Specialist, Steve. We focus on finding money for entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Now, with your company, what has been the greatest challenge most business owners face?
Well, Steve, it's about getting the funding to do the initial startup. Most of them don't have the savings. A lot of times, if they have not managed their personal credit well, they find it difficult to go to banks and get funding. So one of the services that we offer, we take a look at their personal finances initially, to make sure that when we take them to one of our funders, that they do get funding the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Now, what are your suggestions for individuals before actually starting their business?
Steve, it's preparation, preparation, preparation. And the reason I say that, what I run into a lot, Steve, is when individuals approach me, it's like almost like if they woke up one morning and say, you know what, I think I'll go out and start a business today. You know,
yes,
and it
yes.
comes to me and say, James, I had a great idea this morning. I want to start a business, and I want you to go get the funding, and we want to get it up and running next week. You know, and so they really don't prepare for it. And what I like to see, Steve, is 12 months, possibly 2 years of preparation as far as getting money, because I look at it this way: if you were to approach me, Steve, and says, James, I need to borrow money from you to start a business, I would have a lot of questions for you, Steve. First of all, why don't you have your own money?
Yes.
How much do you have in savings?
I blew it up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know whether I would want to, loan you money personally. So when I begin to work with clients, I want to put them in a position where I feel safe giving them my money. And if I can come to that point, Steve, I feel great about taking them to the bank because I know they can get finance.
Excellent, excellent. Now, how long has your company been in business?
Well, actually, Money Acquisition Specialist has been in business 2 years now, but I have a financial background. I actually started working in life insurance in 1990.
Okay.
Yes. From there, in 1996, I went into the mortgage banking business. I started as a loan officer, and eventually I owned my own brokerage company in North Carolina. Okay. And so I think in 2004, I actually moved to Connecticut. Bought a business here, a very successful business, end up selling that business and pursuing my dreams of working in finance.
Oh, fantastic. Now, with your current experience and knowledge that you've accumulated over the time, if you were going into business, how would you approach it?
Well, first of all, Steve, the very first thing I would want to do is really understand what's going on in the market in this day and time. As I was saying earlier, people wake up and say, you know what, I want to start I know how to cook, so I want to open up a restaurant, okay? And so, being a great cook does not necessarily qualify you to run a restaurant.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times people, they become very emotional. They know that they're going to succeed, because they have a great recipe and everyone tells them, listen, you should open up a restaurant. And so they are not really prepared. And so one of the things I do suggest, Steve, there's a lot of great organizations out here where they can get started taking free classes. Of course, SCORE is one of them. You can find a great mentor there. There's another program here in Connecticut, OIC. They have great courses. So what I would suggest to individuals, start with those free courses. You're going to learn a lot. You'll learn about how to put together a business plan, Steve. That is so important because if you can make it work on paper, and you have mentors working with you, I think it increases your chance of succeeding.
Exactly. Matter of fact, when you were talking about restaurants and cooking, makes you think of a friend of mine that actually makes pound cakes. And he had me, taste his, we're like his test dummy, so to speak.
Okay.
So anyways, he had this chocolate cake, pound cake that he had, and also a chocolate frosting. So I bit into the chocolate cake. It was delicious. When I bit into that frosting, what a difference that was, meaning that it was different from the chocolate cake.
Okay.
It was a specialty frosting. I said, this is not chocolate.
Okay.
But it was actually a cherry chocolate.
Oh, really?
So everybody is different in their tasting and things of that nature. So
Absolutely.
it could either succeed or fall depending on
Right.
what they're bringing to the market.
Right.
So very interesting. Now, how about your companies that you've dealt with so far?
Okay.
All right. What are some of the successes that they've had that you've worked with?
Well, Steve, one of the things I find that, number one, the companies that I work with, if they manage their personal finances well, they can. It's a lot easier to succeed in business because they're going to have basically use the exact same principles. And finances is very easy to me, Steve. You know, it's about cash flow, your expenditures, and debt. Same thing on a personal level. You know, so the businesses that I work with that have succeeded, one, the owners, another thing, they have to be disciplined. They have to be disciplined in managing their money and doing their paperwork because that's very, very important. Personally, me, I hate doing paperwork, okay? So I think in my early years, that was my struggle until I figured out I can hire someone else to do the things that I don't love and focus on what I love doing, you know. And so I have some very good people work with me on the administrative level, you know, and they know what I want. So they call me, just call me when it's time to talk. I'll talk, you do all of the other stuff. But it's a great partnership, Steve, you know. And so I find that businesses that's successful, the owners are visionaries and they understand how to build teams. Because being successful in business, you have to have a team. You know, a lot of times I talk about, you know, I'm from the South, of course, and so I grew up watching Westerns.
I can tell.
Yeah, okay, great. I grew up watching The Lone Ranger. Well, there was Tonto,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I look at Batman and Robin, you know, so I look at building successful businesses. You have to be able to put together a team and understand that team. You know,
Right.
One of the things I tell a lot of business owners to do now, and I do myself, take personality profiles. Because a personality profile will tell you who you are, how you think, why you think the way that you do. You know, and I think a lot of times when people go into business, and especially if they have partners, they have both of the partners have a very strong personality, so they are clashing all the time.
They want to align.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, so there's a lot of different components that goes into making a successful business. You know, one of the other sayings we have in the South, anything with two heads is a freak. You know, you know, and so a lot of times when you have partners, you know, and both of you have strong personalities, it's going to make it very difficult because you spend more time fighting with one another than being effective and moving that business forward. You know, so I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into having successful businesses.
Now, with the failure rate so high for new startups, what are some things that may help businesses succeed?
Well, you know, Steve, if a person is interested in going into business, in addition to doing the personality profile, they should explore other options. Working with a client now, she was interested in working in the medical field. And when she initially approached me 3-4 months ago, she was sharing with me her ideas, so on and so forth. And at that particular time, she didn't think that she needed a consultant because she understood what she wanted to do. Well, once she began to do the research, she found it to be overwhelming. She ran into a lot of brick walls. So one of the things that I did was partner her with someone that's been in the exact same field for the last 20 years. Now, the great thing about that relationship, when I initially called the business owner, the individual that's been in the business for 20 years, the very first thing she said, well, great, I'll sell her my business, you know, because she had burnt herself out. So, what I was able to do for both of them and to create a win-win situation so that they both can prosper, I was able to bring in that individual that did not have any experience, partner her with someone that has worked in the industry for 20 years, and now, as of last week, they're putting their contracts in place as to how they're going to work together. The individual that was doing the startup, she was bringing $50,000 to the table to start her own business.
Okay.
But now she can reinvest it into a business that's already up, running, successful. And now, what they are looking at eventually doing is doing a spin-off, with the original owner maintaining 10% of the company. Basically like a franchise fee.
Yes,
Any questions you have, it's a 12-month plan. They're going to reevaluate it at the end of 12 months. But, of course, they have a extension clause in there. If the individual don't feel at the end of 12 months that she's ready to run their own business, they can extend it 24 months, 36 months.
It's flexible.
Right, flexible. So to go to the question, they should always look at other alternatives. Startups are very hard because, there's a saying, you don't know what you don't know. And even today, Steve, I'm still learning. I mean, I was taking a class and found out business-wise I was doing things the hard way, But I mean, I always appreciate education, so that's one thing that I would emphasize to startups. Find a partner, find someone that has experience.
Now, do you suggest to your clients, as far as reading is concerned, books?
Absolutely, Steve. Wow, man. If they are not readers, I think it's going life itself is going to be challenging. Personally, I have a library, probably over 200 books. I think it has played a major role in me being successful because I am a reader.
Fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to share with our audience maybe one of the one or two top books that you would like to suggest to our viewership out there.
Right. Absolutely. I think Think and Grow Rich. My number one go-to book, because if you're going to build any type of wealth, that book gives you the principles. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, I gave that book away as Christmas gifts. That was, and certain people will say, well, I don't want a book. You should have gave me the money or whatever, But especially with my kids, I mean, that book has played a major role in my life. One of the books I believe people should be reading in today's market is by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But he has another book out entitled The Business of the 21st Century.
That just came out, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a timely book that everyone should be reading and should be considering, as far as business models are concerned. I don't know whether you're aware of it, but JCPenney's, the major conglomerate, they are shutting down a lot of their stores.
Yes.
And I think it's those issues.
Along with Macy's.
Macy's, absolutely. And I have some personal financial clients that have worked with both of those organizations. And the question is, why are they shutting down? And it really centers around technology. We live in a global marketplace, if you will. And so that's another consideration when an individual is starting up a business. It's no longer, your competition is no longer, in that neighborhood anymore, especially if you're selling or marketing a product that can be bought over the internet. That becomes another challenge. On the other hand, it's great because if you have a great product and can package it correctly, you can market it to the world.
That's true. Matter of fact, you're talking about businesses. We're kind of dating ourselves here, but Toshiba just announced today that on CNN they're thinking about possibly closing. Right?
Wow!
Because of extending themselves and buying a $1 billion business that did not work out well.
Wow!
All right. So is that something you also help your clients to take a look at as far as not overextending themselves?
Absolutely, Steve. It's all about managing cash flow, you know, and being a visionary. You have to make the right decisions. Part of what I suggest to clients, Steve, and this goes back to what you guys do at SCORE. You know, you always have to have your sounding board. People that have experience, that you can take your business plan to or take your ideals to and say, you know what, I'm thinking about moving in this direction. What do you think? Yes. You know, and a lot of times, you know, you can get some free, valuable advice. Okay, and even like what I tell my clients on a personal level, and it's applied to businesses as well. If you're going to make a major purchase or create a major expense, at least sit and talk with someone about, you know, if I make this decision, where will I be 12 months from now, 24 months from there? Mm-hmm. You know, because we never make any decisions without creating, you know, circumstances. Mm-hmm. You know, some of them could be, hopefully they're positive, but if there's some things that we cannot see, that's why it's always good to have a great team around you. You have mentors, you have, you know, a lot of corporations, for-profits as well as non-profits. Mm-hmm. They have boards with experienced individuals to guide their company.
Right. Matter of fact, one of the things we suggest is before they even go ahead with a suggestion, wait 90 days or longer.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that decision could make a big dent, either positively or negatively.
Right.
And they might not have the wherewithal to withstand it, especially if it's negative.
Absolutely. You know, ask one important question. You know, what happens? What's the worst possible thing that can happen from making this decision? You know, you think about it in those terms and ask yourself the question, can I live with it? If the worst possible thing, can I recover financially? And if you know, how long will it take? You know, I talk to people about that all the time. Their decisions, you know, sometimes you can, you know, Steve, with the stroke of a pen, people can put themselves in debt or budget 5, 10, 15, 20 years sometimes.
Well, you know, this is not a political show, but just recently when they had that travel ban.
Absolutely. Okay.
That thing made such a major difference in people's lives. It affected not only people here, but people around the world.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, one person even died because they could not even get to the United States.
Wow.
All right, so it makes sense to take a look at what that business does before they actually do it.
Yes.
Now, what are your suggestions for individuals before starting a business?
Okay. Number one, the first thing I would do, Steve, and I may have said this earlier, is take a good look at their personal finances. Where are they financially? Do they have enough savings? You know, especially if they are looking at going into the business on a full-time basis, they should at least have a minimum of 12 months of money set aside to pay all of their living expenses. One of the things that happens, most people think that they will start a business, make money, and get a paycheck next week. That don't happen when you start businesses.
That's true.
You know, a lot of times it can be 2 to 3 months down the road before the owners can actually take a paycheck out of the business for themselves. Hopefully, they can do it in that short period of time.
Yes.
You know, so being prepared personally, financially is important. You know, begin to put a team in place around you. People that can, you know, not only help you but give you solid advice and a good gauge as far as the business being successful. Hopefully the people around you will want to invest in your business as a vote of confidence.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you don't want to be working with people like, you know, I never put my money in, you know, that's the wrong person on your team, you know. But, you know, having, you know, advice, the free classes that I mentioned earlier, you know, understanding all of the components of a business plan is so important when you're starting a business. Because a lot of times, Steve, if I meet with a client, if they already, most of my clients are like startups. They put a lot of the components in place, but they're still not making money. And the question they ask me is, why am I not making money? The first thing I take a look at is your business plan. You know, if I ask for the business plan and they say, "What business plan, Steve?" I know what the problem is.
Exactly.
You know. The other thing I do, of course, you know, in working with them, you know, so important. And I know I've said this, but the personal finances, having that money set aside, will help you, you know, be successful.
Yes. Now, one other question here. What are some other things that aspiring business owners should consider?
Okay, partnerships, as I said earlier. Perhaps, you know, they say, you know what, I want to start a business. You know, as a matter of fact, another client I have retired, $100,000 in their retirement account. And they said, you know what, I want to take this money and I want to start a business. One of the questions I asked her was why? And she said, was sharing with me, well, you know, I'm young, I have $100,000, and I want to put this money into a business that not only do I create work for myself, but I want to be able to have additional long-term income. You know, and so a lot of people think that the only way that you can go into business is to start a business. So what I suggested to her, let's take a look at buying a business that already exists, that already have a system in place, that have employees in place, that already have managers in place. Small business administration is a great place to start because, you know, if she was going to buy a $400,000 business that's generating $150,000 cash flow to the owner per year, Steve, she could put down $40,000 instead of investing $100,000. And not only that, the very first month in business, she gets a paycheck. She don't have to train any employees. The system is already in place for her. So that made sense. And it had management in place. And so what I suggested to her in that situation, let's take one of the managers and make them a general manager. They run the day-to-day operations while you go back and educate yourself. You know, so she was able to actually own a business. She doesn't have to show up to that business every day. The very first month, she got a paycheck, $8,000.
She was happy.
She was happy. She says, you know, versus putting $100,000 into the business and hoping 5 years she can get her money back out.
Right, exactly.
You know, so that, you know, that's the other thing I suggest, because we live in a great time, Steve. There's a lot of baby boomers who started businesses that want out now. You know, their kids are grown. You know, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they got their own life. And the parents have these businesses that are generating, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to them personally. It may be, I have another company that I'm meeting with later today. The gross revenue is $600,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The owners take home $183,000 a year. They want out now, Steve. So that's another great opportunity that someone should take a look at.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because they want to retire, they want to enjoy the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely.
you help them in that area also.
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, one of the books that we talk about too, matter of fact, the book that you mentioned earlier, Think and Grow Rich, is something that we mentioned on our show. Matter of fact, that's one of the top classic books, all right, for salespeople and also business people in general.
Absolutely.
All right, not only helps in business, but it also helps in their life also. One of the areas that that book talks about too is referenced in this book, is you might be familiar with it, The Law of Attraction.
Right,
all right?
absolutely.
The Magic of Believing, all right, by Claude Bristol. All right, great book that we also suggest out there.
Okay.
Matter of fact, in one of our previous shows, we talked about, it's escaping right now, but How to Read a Book.
Oh,
all right, by, who's that? There's another author.
Okay, I'm familiar with the book. I have not read.
Yes, you'll enjoy it because there's actually there's 4 ways of reading,
wow.
and it describes each one of those, and it will actually help you read 3 times faster.
Wow.
So once again, to our audience out there at the our SCORE audience, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Once again, you can reach us at 203-551-1278 and also at scorect.org. Any questions? And how might they reach you also?
Yes, my personal cell number is 203-953-1495.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, James, a pleasure having you. All right.
It's fun, Steve.
Thank you very much. And,
All right.
and please come again.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
All right. 203-953-1495.
Housatonic Community College, and we actually meet at a time that's convenient for you. You can reach us at 203-551-1278 and also at scorect.org.